Hi everyone and welcome. I'm absolutely delighted to be hosting this session today. Now we've just heard a lot about what it takes to create a successful center of excellence, center for excellence, but we've heard about the roles, the skill sets and the structure that kind of you need to drive impact. But now we're going to zoom in a little because as we've just heard, it's all about the people. It's about how teams evolve, how individuals step up, and how these new opportunities can both shape careers, but also drive real business value at the same time. And we've got a really great example of this with Cailin Cron from Compare the Market, a CDP manager there. And her story is a fantastic look about how being curious, having a data-driven mindset, can really unlock these big opportunities. Now, starting as a marketing graduate to now leading CDP adoption at Compare the Market, it's like we have a lot to learn from your journey. So I'm not going to delay this any further. So Cailin, maybe take us back to the beginning. Like, when did you first become aware of a CDP? And I guess more importantly, what interested you in wanting to work with one?
Yeah, sure. So being honest, that the first time I came across a CDP was after a frantic Google search of what one was. I wasn't super familiar with how it worked, and this was only, probably this time last year. But I can probably break it into maybe three areas that caught my attention around what a CDP was and kind of led me to where I am now. The first, as Kirsten said, was that I started as a marketing graduate, and that gave me some really great behaviors. So I started, as most graduate programs do, where you do those rotations throughout the marketing department. I got to learn what a brand was, what planning and performance was, and what CRM was. But the way that most graduate programs work is that every 6 months you start afresh. So you spend 6 months really understanding a team, really understanding its processes, and then at the end of that, it's, okay, that's great, but you're going to start again. You need to start new. You need to learn everything from scratch. And so that built a really good behavior for me of being curious, but also being a quick learner and adapt to change. And those behaviors have really set me up for working into a CDP. The second of those was starting to build out my technical skill set. So as I alluded to, I went around the different marketing departments, and CRM was kind of where I ended. I did 2 rotations there because they couldn't get rid of me. They might have tried, but I didn't let them. And I did campaigns and comms, and then I also did rotation and time in the operational side. And what that gave me a really solid view was the very beginning. So how do you build an automation? How do you segment an audience? How do you do all the technical elements to bringing a campaign to life? But then also the communication side of how do we talk to our customers? When do we talk to them? What are the different testing and tactical optimizations we want to work on? And having that end-to-end gave me a really clear view of everything that encompasses CRM, but also the technical skill set that was a good foundation for eventually working towards a CDP. And then that takes me to my third element, which was, I see it kind of as a stroke of chance and a bit of luck, but our head of customer marketing, Saul, sat me down, again, probably about this time last year, and it was luckily after I'd done the frantic Google search of what a CDP was, and he said to me, we've got this CDP role, are you interested in it? And there was two major thought lines that went through my head. The first was of excitement and interest, because I'd just done this search into what one was. It seemed very interesting to me in terms of the personalization opportunities, the data enrichments we could have at Compare the Market. But then very quickly after that came those thoughts of, yeah, but why me? Like, I can't do this. This is a lot to take on. I don't know how to do this. I've never done this before. Everything I've done before has had a person in the role ahead of it. And Saul was very, very useful for me in that moment, because he just went, okay, like, we can give you support and we can get you there, but so why not try it? And that was really useful, because it just took all those worries and thoughts and bundled them and just kind of chucked them out the window and gave me that leap of faith that I really needed to take that step and go into that kind of role. I think, well, I like to think in 2 or 3 years' time I might have ended up here anyway, but I think he kind of gave me that allowance and opened the door and gave me the opportunity and support to go, just try it. And I think those 3 things of having those behaviors set up and the technical skill set to start understanding and being interested in personalization, and then the leap of faith from leadership to just actually go ahead and try it.
Yeah. And what was the kind of, I suppose, key selling point from Sol, which made you think, yeah, this is the right path for me.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So there's some colleagues from Compare the Market here today, and they'll know that Saul can sell you pretty much anything. It's that kind of classic job interview thing of, try and sell me this pen, and you would leave with a stationery shop. Like, he can sell you anything in the world. So that probably was an easy task for him. But I think he kind of opened my eyes to the amount of optimization, to the amount of opportunities. I was very curious. I stand very curious, and I'm always wanting to ask questions and improve and move on what we do. And I think he kind of just showed me a world in which that was possible, and it wasn't this thing that was always in the future we will do this, and in the future we will do this. It was this is how here and now you can create that change. And yeah, that was just a key selling point for me.
I think probably everyone in this room can appreciate the challenges of having to learn on the job. Now, learning a job that doesn't actually exist in the organization is probably an added challenge. So could you maybe talk us through how you upskilled yourself into taking up this role, and maybe what resources you lent on?
Yeah, there's two key ways I went about it. The first was, I did it wrong at first, but I knew that I had to understand Tealium specifically as a platform. I had to work through the certification, work through the documentation, go to the webinars. But what I initially tried to do was do that just in between everything else. So I would go, Monday morning, I'll set aside an hour and I'll try and get that done. And then Thursday afternoon, in between these two meetings, I'll try and squeeze it in there. And I think I wasn't giving it the time it needed. And so I spent a good couple of weeks going, I'm never going to learn this. This is too much. This is too much to understand. And so what I had the benefit from was my manager, David, said, if you need the time, take the time. And taking him up on that was really key, because I was allowed to have, I think it was for 2 or 3 weeks, I had multiple just full days where it was, that is all I'm spending my time doing. I'm just going to learn Tealium. I'm just going to sit with the documentation and actually invest the time in understanding this thing. I'm not going to be distracted by the actions I had off the back of that meeting or the agenda I need to prep for the next one. I just solidly spent the time immersing myself in Tealium. And that enabled me not only to learn really deeply and really understand and go down those rabbit holes and look through all the different documentation, but it also enabled me to learn it quite quickly, which ultimately is always really useful. But the second thing I did off the back of that was, once I'd started to build that foundation of understanding Tealium as a platform, it was understanding our data more. So I had a good technical understanding of our CRM data because I'd worked in the team, but I only understood it from the tools we had available at that time. So what I had to start doing was understanding the data that Tealium was going to give us access to. So how is our website tagged up? How does that data flow through? And just start building that understanding of what our data looks like, so that when I've got the tool in place and that we're using it in the best way, and we're not restricting ourselves to what we know now, but we've got a fuller understanding of the data throughout the business.
Yeah. And during your initial adoption, I believe you also worked with a partner. Could you maybe talk us through how they helped your enablement journey as well during that initial stage?
Yeah, of course. So we worked with Merkle. So it was, just for a bit of context setting, last year we went on a quite a big project, which was completely rebuilding our CRM platforms and data. And as part of that, CDP came into role. And what Merkle did was, from the beginning, give us that best practice element to it. And what it enabled us to do was build quite quickly and also build really well. And if we hadn't have had them, we would have still built it, but we'd have definitely compromised on one of those things. And having them there to help us build in the right way and build at speed meant that whilst they were doing that and creating the foundation for us, I could do all the stuff I just said I did of, reading the documentation and learning about Tealium, which means that we're now kind of at this cross section of, we've got the momentum they were able to give it, and the drive they were able to give it, and my understanding of Tealium and the wider team's understanding of Tealium is meeting it. So we can now carry on that momentum and kind of pass the baton on to carry on building.
Great. I think, it's already been touched on today that a CDP is not just one person's responsibility. So how are you approaching enabling other teams to kind of grow within this space and, approach this new way of working?
I think the best approach that I've found, and being honest, it's quite a recent one that I've come to accept, is we have to show your stakeholders and your team what a CDP means to them. It's great if I understand it technically and I can know where the data's coming through and how it's going to show up for them. But if they don't know that, it's kind of pointless. Like, I've spent all that time learning and understanding Telium so that they don't have to do that, and so that I can translate what the value is that it can drive to them. So one thing that I found really a powerful way to do that is using Trace. So when I was doing the certification and starting to understand, that was kind of the light bulb moment for me of how CDP was going to enrich our data and how it was going to make it more powerful. I kind of had that typical CRM marketer perspective of, these are my segments of data and this is how it is in a data extension. It's all very static and orderly. And when I was interacting with Trace on our website and seeing the data come through, I kind of had that spark of, oh, that means we could, enrich this campaign type, and this means we have all these different customer data points, and oh, I didn't know it would flow through that way. Let me think about how we could change our campaign structure. And those kind of light bulb moments is what I wanted to bring to the team. So it's only in the last month or so that I've started trying to have sessions with some of our specialists and take them specifically for the campaign they work on and go into Trace and show them how it shows up for them in that way, so they can see that data coming through and seeing it in that real-time perspective and seeing how that can then enrich it for them.
I think you mentioned earlier when we were talking that there are some specific campaigns where kind of this process has really changed in the way that you build them, and it allows you to have more time to innovate in other areas. Could you maybe give us an example of one of those use cases?
Yeah, we so speaking back to that project I was talking about, we did a lot of migrations of our campaigns to CDP. One of those was our renewals campaign, which is one of our biggest, one of our most important, but also one of our most complex. So the way we handled it before was the audience got fed, well, the kind of base of the audience got fed into our CRM platform. And then we had, for that one campaign, over 50 automations to try and build the audience on a daily basis. As you can imagine, with the amount of data we have, that failed a lot. That had a lot of technical elements to it. If you wanted to change the audience, you had to go into the SQL and you had to rewrite it and test it. And there was a lot of steps involved in trying to change anything to do with that campaign. But what we were able to do is take that audience, build and move it into CDP, and that kind of had a knock-on effect, I think, slightly in how we went about going forward, in terms of we were then using our tech stack for what it was made for. So we were taking our audience out of this complex kind of clunky system and moving it into CDP, where not only was it built nicer, but we could also now in the future start enriching it with those real-time behaviors. But what that meant is that the team, and I know it because I used to be in it, they'd spend the time, right, I've got to rerun that automation, now I've got to wait ages for it to rerun because it's a massive data set, and all that time spent just waiting around is now better spent on, right, how can we optimize this campaign, how can we test better, how can we test differently, and gives you the capability and also the time to think about it.
Yeah. And I think it's fair to say that Compare the Market have made like leaps and bounds in terms of how quickly you've adopted a CDP. Like, what do you think made it work so well?
I'm saying this not just because I know the team are here, but the team are really good. We have a really technical CRM team, and I don't just mean the operational side, but our comms team, our campaign team, are really interested in data. They are curious about it. They want to know how it works, why it works that way, how they can better use it. We've just got a really strong team of people that are curious about data, and I think a CDP just fits perfectly into that. It gives them more data, which they like, but it gives them more insights to act upon. I think also the communication that allows. So as part of the project that we did, we had data engineers in the room with us. They weren't like working on a separate project with different ideas and different priorities. We had all the key stakeholders in the room with us working towards the same goal, and that just makes things more efficient, because it's not, oh, can you please come work on this CDP and can you please come do this? They were like, this is our focus for the next 6 to 12 months, and so you got that momentum behind it that was really key.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot about bringing people in a room together. You get things done a lot faster. So I suppose if you were to look back on your journey, is there any advice that you might give anyone here around, how to step into the role of the CDP and be successful?
Yeah, I think if I could speak to myself like even 6 months ago, I'm a very sounds awful because of the name of the company. I'm a very comparison-based person in that I like to know that's how I measure myself. Like, what did the person before me do? How did they operate? What did they work with? But coming into this role, I had none of that. There was no predecessor with a nice handbook to follow from. And so what the advice I kind of really needed was to just set goals. And I did do that. I have done that eventually, but I was almost too nervous to do it at first because I was like, well, what if these aren't the right goals? What if I'm not going in the right direction? But kind of it doesn't matter at the beginning because you just need to create success measures to work out how you're doing. And then you can change those and you can pivot those, but at least there's some direction to it. So I wish I'd have done that and also had that split out, not just for like myself. So going into this role, what skills do I need to improve? Do I need to improve my stakeholder management? Do I need to be able to improve my communication style? But also, what do I want the CDP to do? Do I want it to have, not this, but 20 new integrations in a year? Like, what are all the different elements that I want the CDP to deliver, and really break those out for myself so I can see myself achieving it and also communicate the direction I want to go into to the team and the business. And then also on reflection, I wish I'd have celebrated a little bit more. I mean, we've still got a way to go. I'm really new into this journey, but I think I've been quite hesitant to really celebrate when we've achieved something, because it's like, yeah, I've achieved this, but I want to achieve this bigger thing. So this doesn't matter. But even things like, we've got a documentation process, which sounds basic, but for a financial services company, having a regulated, auditable process is really key. And I wish I'd have shouted a bit more about the fact that we'd achieved that and what that means. I think just celebrating those wins is really key, not just for morale as well, but so that everyone else knows what you're doing and the journey you're going on.
Mm-hmm. I think you'd be well deserved to celebrate some of your wins.
Thanks.
But I'm really interested in terms of like what's next on your individual journey, but also for this like new team that you're creating.
So kind of some of the stuff I've spoke through is bringing the team on board and getting them to understand what the CDP does and why it's valuable to them. What we want to do next is show that to the rest of the business. We don't want the CDP to kind of be this hidden little secret that's only ours to use. It's something that's really powerful, has a lot of data in it, and can really enrich other departments. So what we're going to do is a kind of Telium roadshow in the business to go around and show them the journey we've been on, the learnings we've had, and start trying to build up use cases with them of how it could better help them in terms of efficiencies maybe within their processes, but better enrich what they're doing. And then also just upskill our team more, carry on building that capability within the team, that kind of center for excellence, so that when we've got these use cases off the back of the roadshow, we can actually deliver them, and we can deliver them well.
Great. Thank you so much, Cailin. And I think you may have started your roadshow already, because there's a significant volume of Compare the Market in the audience today. But no, it's a really insightful look into this like center of excellence. So really do appreciate you sharing that with us. But also, it's inspiring to see Compare the Market like invest in people and foster this culture of learning. I'm really excited to kind of see what you do next. And Cailin will be around for the rest of the next couple of days, but we do have some time for questions. So if anybody has any, can't see anyone. But so thank you again, Cailin. But we've been chatting quite a long time, and I can say there is a lot that we didn't have time to share today from Cailin's journey. So I really do say connect with Cailin during her time here.
Yeah, happy to.
Thank you.
Thank you.